Good morning, y'all. How's everybody? It's good to be here. It feels like it's been a long time, but it's also feels like it was yesterday. It's kind of like raising my son, it feels like it was yesterday that he was tiny and now he's already 8. So I'm excited to be here to kick off this session and talk about school nutrition and why it matters. And I think that in a lot of ways, this question is answered in an obvious way, but I hope that by the end of this presentation, you'll see just how urgent this program is, the school nutrition program, and also how important it is for our industry. So let's see if this will work for me. All right. So these are my objectives today. We're going to talk about school nutrition as a whole. Where is school nutrition? Because they've had a really hard couple of years, right? Everybody has experienced challenges because of the pandemic, but in school nutrition, they've had a unique set of circumstances, and I'm going to share some of that with you so that you have a good understanding of where they are. We're going to talk about some of the barriers to serving peanuts in schools, and a lot of this you guys already know. It's not necessarily going to be new information. For some of you it might be new, and at the very least it will be a reminder of those challenges and also some of the myths and misperceptions that drive those challenges. But don't worry, because at the end I'm going to give you some opportunities and some ways that you can be part of the solution, including providing some resources. And I'm going to share with you what the National Peanut Board's been doing in this area and how we continue to work to keep peanuts in schools and to bring them back in schools where maybe peanuts haven't been served in a long time or in a little while. And after my presentation, you're going to hear from a couple of amazing speakers talking about their experiences having peanuts in schools. So I think that the first thing to keep in mind is that school nutrition is essential. School nutrition is essential for helping to feed our country's children. It's essential for fighting hunger. It's essential as a national security program. Really, school nutrition was established as a national security effort, right? In order to make sure that children grow up healthy and strong so that we have folks who can serve in the military to serve our country and protect us. That's really at the very beginning part of what started the school nutrition program. It's to make sure that our citizens grow up healthy and strong. And I can't think of many foods that do that as well as peanuts and peanut butter. So it's essential for our country, but it's also essential for peanuts. Oop. And I think just to build on that, a lot of people don't realize how big the school nutrition program is, and these stats tell the story. If you look at the number of meals that are served in just school lunches, 4.9 billion lunches per year. That's billion with a B. That's a lot of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. I mean, that is a lot of meals that are served every year. And then for breakfast, not as many children participate in breakfast, but almost half do. So if we think about the number of breakfasts, almost 2.5 billion breakfasts served annually, and that's all over the country. A huge number of meals that can include peanuts and peanut butter. Obviously, they're not all going to include peanuts and peanut butter, but many of them will. And I think that this is a great slide to kind of put into perspective what we're talking about when we think about school nutrition. It's more than just sack lunches, right? It's more than just something simple. It's one of the largest, maybe the largest food service effort in the country. And in school nutrition, they've had some major issues. The pandemic has been very difficult for school nutrition. And I've highlighted here the top 3 based on what I've heard through the School Nutrition Association, attending the annual nutrition conference and expo, and in all of my conversations with school nutrition operators around the country. The first one I think is the biggest one in many cases. It's the supply chain issues, right? They can't get what they need in every district on a consistent basis to serve the meals that they want to serve, right? They're continuing to serve students. They're continuing to feed students, and they have since the beginning of the pandemic. But it is extremely difficult. It's not like you and me when we go to the grocery store and we might not see our favorite peanut butter on the shelf. We just choose a different brand. The school nutrition programs don't have that much flexibility. Sometimes they don't have the option because it's not part of their bid. Sometimes they don't have the option because it's not an option through their supplier. Sometimes it's not an option because they can't get enough product, right? For you and me, we're just serving our small household. But in schools, they might be serving 500, 600, 1,000, 1,500 meals in a day they need a huge amount of product, and sometimes it's extremely difficult for them to get enough. And it's not just about the food, it's also about what they serve it on, right? So trays, spoons, bowls, packaging, anything like that, ingredients that go into recipes, even a small ingredient change can be a big deal for them, and it can make it really difficult for them to meet the needs of the students in their district. In addition to the supply chain issue, they have had huge skyrocketing costs, right? The cost of foods, we've all seen that, right? You and me, we all see it at the grocery store at the end of the day, right? When we go grocery shopping, my grocery budget has gone up 20-30%, I think, over last year. It's been a huge increase, and schools have experienced that as well. And they do it, they've experienced it from a perspective of not necessarily having, in all districts, a lot of reserve, right? So they haven't had a lot of money to cover that increased cost. And then the last thing I want to mention is staffing shortages. And I said that, you know, supply chain issues are the number one, but I would say that staffing is at least as much of a problem in many districts. Many school districts came into the pandemic without enough people to do the work that they needed to do, right? They had openings, all of them just about had openings. But during the pandemic, they lost a lot of their staff, and they lost them for a variety of reasons. In some cases, they had to cut staff in the beginning of the pandemic because their service was different, right? They might not have been serving as many students, or they weren't serving them in school, so they had to temporarily reduce their staffing, and then it was really hard to get them to come back or to fill the spots that ended up being vacated. And in some districts, they have 40% openings. Can you imagine running your business with 40% staffing shortage? It's huge. It's a huge challenge for schools. And they're competing with all the other industries in the country, right? So depending on where they are, they're competing with Amazon, you know, who's hiring huge numbers to deliver product. If you look at the growth in home delivery of everything, you know, a lot of people who might have worked in schools have been attracted by other opportunities that they can choose to work in that might be work from home or might be a different industry altogether. So it's a real challenge for school nutrition. And I just paint that picture because I think it's important to understand where they are as we talk to them about this issue of food allergies or peanut allergies, or why they should bring peanuts back into their schools if they're not currently serving it. This is a slide from the CDC that I think is really telling and interesting, and further emphasizes what I've said, but also gives us some additional information. During the pandemic, Congress allowed for schools to begin to serve all meals for free for their students, right? So all students were able to get free meals through the school nutrition program. And that helped a lot where schools maybe had lost a lot of participation at the beginning of the pandemic. They were able to begin to serve more students. In some districts, that became a challenge because they had more students participating. It was difficult for them to guess how many meals they were going to be able to serve. It was difficult for them to be able to meet the demand in some cases because of the supply chain issues, because of the staffing issues. But it was a real positive at the end of the day because it helped schools with revenue, and it also showed to have provide a better overall quality diet for the children who participated in the National School Lunch Program, especially children who are in a home where nutrition insecurity is an issue. And I think that this slide also tells us and reminds us that food insecurity increased during the pandemic. And when we're talking about food insecurity, this is students and families who don't have enough to eat, don't know where their next meal is going to come from, or maybe they have food, but it isn't enough. It isn't enough to meet the needs of that family and that child. And when we think about hunger in America, it's really important to remember this is an issue all over the country, right? Hunger, ooh, that wasn't me, I don't think. Hunger isn't new, and it's not just one area. It's not just one kind of people. It's not just one population. It's all over the country. And in particular, the darkest color that you see here, the orange, the dark orange, that's where hunger is the biggest issue. That's where hunger affects more people than the US average. And I think you'll see that this is a lot of peanut country, right? We see that hunger is an issue everywhere, but in peanut country, in some states, it's a bigger issue. And I think that that's two things. One, it tells us this is our neighbors, right? And we want to serve our neighbors. And it also shows this is an opportunity, right? You guys grow a food that fuels people, that feeds people, that helps children grow. And I think that you guys have shown in this industry over and over and over what an incredible impact you can make. And I think the school nutrition program is one more place where you can show that you're making a difference. Whoops. So how can peanuts help? You know, I always talk about the many different, you know, you guys who know me well know that I am a peanut evangelist. I have no problem convincing people, talking to people about why they should be serving peanuts. But I think when we think about the school nutrition program in particular, these are some of the most important reasons that peanuts and peanut butter should be on the menu. First of all, it's affordable. And what have we been talking about? The incredible challenges that school nutrition programs have had to meeting the needs of their students because of supply chain issues, because of cost, because of staffing issues. Peanuts are affordable. They're a food that can go a long way on a menu, right? You can do a lot with peanut butter or peanuts on a menu. It's kid approved. Kids love it, right? So it's not like some other foods that are affordable that kids may not like. I'm not going to name them, but there are foods that are less expensive or as inexpensive as peanuts, but they're not foods that kids like to eat, right? So if you put it on the menu, it doesn't really help with hunger or nourishing kids if they're not going to eat it. Peanut butter is not a problem, right? Kids love peanut butter. They're going to eat it almost no matter what, unless they're allergic, and that's a very small percentage of the population. It's also shelf stable. So as schools are thinking about the changes that they've gone through, emergency feeding, changes in the way that they deliver meals, shelf stable options have been so important. And peanut butter fills that bill, right? And I think that the other thing is that it's nutritious. So we've been talking about hunger and meeting the needs for children who are hungry, but these children are also growing, right? It's not just a matter of filling their bellies and making them feel full. It's also about fueling their growth, helping them grow into healthy, strong adults. And peanuts and peanut butter do that in a way that not many other foods do. It's also versatile. So thinking about affordability and cost control, peanut butter and peanuts go a long way in different kinds of recipes, right? So they can be used in a million different ways and there's less waste. Whereas in other foods, you may not be able to use them in as many different ways. So when it comes to the school nutrition program, these are some of the things that I talk about with my peers and with other folks in the school nutrition program, reminding them that these are the reasons that peanuts and peanut butter should be on your menu. But there are barriers, right? We know that there are barriers, and it's not a surprise that the number one barrier is about peanut allergies, right? So people have a lot of questions. You know, oftentimes when I talk to people about the work I do with the National Peanut Board, the first thing they say is, oh, why are there so many kids allergic to peanuts now? Or where did all these peanut allergies come from, right? You guys probably hear the same thing when you're in a place where maybe you're not within the industry, you're out in other places, you meet somebody in a restaurant, or you meet somebody somewhere and you tell them what you do, and they say, oh, why are there so many kids allergic to peanuts? Or they say, my kid can't have peanuts in their school. Why is that? So I think that there's a lot of misinformation, and that drives a lot of the lack of education, right? Misinformation, misperceptions, people don't understand how to control or how to handle peanut allergies in schools, and so because of that, that drives a lot of their decision making. So we're going to talk about some of those myths and misperceptions. Don't worry, I'm not going to leave you, I told you I was not going to leave you in the bad news, and I'm not going to. But I do also want to remind you that some of the challenges that we have to do with the lack of support within the district. So sometimes there is support, especially in food service. You know, I meet people all the time in food service and school nutrition who say, I love peanuts and peanut butter, and I want to put it on my menu, but I don't have support. So we're going to talk about what that looks like and maybe how you can help change that conversation in your area of the country. So as we begin talking about the allergy issue, I think it's important to remember that there are a lot of other allergens on the menu, right? So when we think about peanut butter in schools or peanuts in schools, there are lots of other allergens that are already being served. And this slide shows the top 8, which is going to be the top 9. So you can see that milk, eggs, fish, crustacean shellfish, peanuts, tree nuts, wheat, and soy are the big 8. They've always been considered the big 8. But next January, Congress has decided that we need to add sesame to that list. So in January of next year, sesame is going to become the 9th, well, it's already been determined to be the 9th most common allergen in the US, but it's going to be added to the labeling requirements for food allergens. So you'll start to see sesame identified as an allergen on the food labels, the same way that we see all these other foods. So when I talk to schools about managing food allergies, I remind them they're already serving probably milk and wheat every single day on their menu. Many of them are serving eggs almost every day on their menu. They're serving popcorn shrimp, because kids love it, on their menus on a regular basis. They're serving fish because the USDA is encouraging them to serve fish. So all of these foods are already on their menu, they're handling them, and they have students who have food allergies, and they're doing just fine. So that's one of the things that I talk to them about, remembering that, while sometimes we remember or we recognize that peanuts can be the poster child for food allergies. It's kind of a curse and a blessing, right? It's a curse because it can be a real challenge, people have misinformation, but it's a blessing too because that means that where the solutions start, they start with peanuts. And there are a lot of solutions out there. I can talk about that stuff more as we go on if you guys have those questions. So again, thinking about overcoming some barriers, why do so many kids have peanut allergy? Well, the reality is that 98% or more of children don't have a peanut allergy. Only about 2% of children have a peanut allergy. That's not insignificant in a country with 330 million people, right? It's a lot of children, but it isn't the majority. It isn't the vast majority. The vast majority of children don't have a peanut allergy and can enjoy peanuts without any issue. And I think sometimes people think it's a much bigger problem than it is, When I talk to consumers and I ask them, how many people do you think have a peanut allergy? Or how many people do you think have a food allergy? A lot of times I'll get numbers like 15%, 20%. They think that far more people have a peanut allergy than actually do. So context is important as we talk to people about peanut allergies. And then these are some of the most common myths and misperceptions that we hear. The first thing I like to tell people in school nutrition is that your peers are serving peanuts all the time, right? So more than 2/3 of schools are serving peanut butter on the menu on a regular basis, and or they allow it into the lunchroom. So maybe they're not serving it on their menu, but students can bring it in. Well, if students can bring it in, why can't you serve it on the menu? That's one of the conversations that I have with schools. If it's already in the building, why are you not serving it on your menu? You're missing an opportunity. And fortunately, many schools are serving it, and I'm getting a lot more questions, and we're having a lot more conversation about how to continue to do that or how to bring it back. Schools, as I mentioned already safely handle many other allergens. That can be a light bulb for people. When I was at the annual nutrition conference for the School Nutrition Association just a week and a half ago or something, that was a light bulb moment for so many people. I'm not sure why they don't realize it, but they just don't think about the fact that they're already serving every single day one of the major allergens, milk. Milk will never come off the school nutrition menu, and it shouldn't, and neither should peanuts and peanut butter. So that's one of the things that I bring to people's attention. We know from research that casual contact, meaning just being in the room with or being at the table with or being near someone who's eating peanuts and peanut butter doesn't cause anaphylaxis. It's not going to cause a severe life-threatening reaction. It doesn't. There are many people who have that misperception though, and I try not to argue with people. I won't say I never argue with people about it, but I try hard not to argue with people because I want to respect their personal experience, right? I want to respect that people have a certain perspective, and arguing doesn't really get us where we want to be. But the reality is the research shows that casual contact does not cause severe reaction. It doesn't mean that people won't panic. It doesn't mean that there won't be anxiety around being near an allergen if they're allergic to it. But it does mean that we don't have to worry about life-threatening reactions, and we shouldn't be making district-wide decisions or school-wide decisions based on a perception. We should be using the research. And then because of the conversation around airborne, I always like to remind people that odor, right? What causes the aroma of peanut butter, that wonderful smell that most of us love, is not the same as peanut protein that causes a reaction, right? So the smell of peanut butter, while someone who has a peanut allergy may really dislike it, it isn't what causes a reaction. So those are two very different things, and I think in most schools they're serving peanut butter. And I like to remind people, think about the consistency of peanut butter, right? It isn't floury, it doesn't poof up into the air, right? This is something that's very contained. It's not going to cause a reaction because it's not the proteins in the air that cause the reaction. And then lastly, there was a really good paper that was released last year about managing food allergens and preventing reactions in schools. And it was written by the American Academy of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology, by experts, researchers, physicians, allergists who came together from really a number of different countries, including Canada and the US. And they specifically said in the document, bans are not medically necessary to manage food allergies. So I think that's a really powerful statement too. While bans may be something that people, and schools in particular, think is going to help with the problem, they are not medically necessary, and research has shown that in schools that claim to be peanut-free, they have just as many reactions. They use epinephrine at the same rate as schools that serve peanut butter. So I think that's something that people they don't know, so the more we can educate them, the better. So to that end, ta-da, the National Peanut Board has a new landing page for our food allergy information in schools, and it's called peanutsinschools.org. It is a simple, easy to remember website, peanutsinschools.org. You're never going to forget it now. Tell everybody about it. It has great resources for our schools, and it includes testimonials, videos, it includes printable handouts. I'm going to show you a quick introductory video, if you'll forgive me. It's just 1 minute and 47 seconds, something like that, but it'll give you the overview of what to expect from this website.
Hi, I'm Sherry Coleman, registered dietitian, nutritionist, and food allergy expert. I'm also a former school nutrition professional. Welcome to Peanuts in Schools, a resource for school nutrition professionals and others interested in learning more about how to serve peanuts in schools when you're also serving students with peanut allergies. The National Peanut Board at its inception wanted to be part of the solution for peanut allergies. Since then, America's peanut farmers have contributed over $35 million toward food allergy research, education, and outreach. In the area of allergies and schools, the National Peanut Board has worked with the School Nutrition Association, multiple advocacy organizations, schools, and others to help dispel common myths about peanuts in schools, as well as support the development of resources that make serving peanut foods safer for those with peanut allergies. We know that school nutrition professionals are amazing, and you're adept at food safety. Across the country, schools serve many allergenic foods each day, including milk, eggs, and meat, amongst others. We also know that there are a lot of misperceptions and myths about peanut allergies out there that sometimes get in the way of making informed, evidence-based plans about serving peanuts in schools. We hope this resource will help you serve peanut foods confidently, using caution and preparedness as your guide. If you have questions about this resource or anything you find here, don't hesitate to reach out to us. And please, watch all the videos included in the series. Check out the links to internal and external resources, and use these tools to help your school create a plan to keep peanuts on the menu.
So in addition to that introductory video, there are videos from an allergist who talks about how and why to serve peanut foods safely, including dispelling that airborne myth. So if you've got a district where maybe that's the pervasive myth that you're dealing with, that's not from me, you know? Sometimes people think, well, she's from the National Peanut Board, of course she's gonna say that. But we worked with experts who aren't associated necessarily with the National Peanut Board in order to provide this information in a way that is honest, that's evidence-based, and that hopefully is really compelling and convincing. We also have a couple of school nutrition directors in some videos. We have an advocate who's also a food allergy parent. So there aren't a ton of videos, but the videos that are here are really compelling, and most of them are 5 minutes or less. So if you have an opportunity to have a conversation with somebody about this, send them to the page, because I think that they'll find the answers to a lot of their questions in a way that is easy to understand and that is really very convincing. In addition to the website, we continue to do sort of boots on the ground working with the National Association of School Nurses, with the School Nutrition Association, at their annual conferences, having those face-to-face conversations, really getting into those deeper conversations, because they can be hard to have, certainly via social media or even email. We try to have those conversations in person, and thankfully we're able to meet in person now, and I can say that this last School Nutrition Association conference was, in my opinion, one of the most helpful. I think we had some really fantastic conversations. We're also a sponsor with the School Nutrition Association, including providing educational webinars, and we've got 2 coming up, including one with these amazing directors. And then we have, they're actually going to be speaking also at the Florida School Nutrition Association meeting on this topic as well. So really trying to get in front of the right audiences to have these conversations. We also sponsor the School Nutrition Association's Food Allergy Resource Center, including an Ask the Expert section, and I'm the expert. So they're getting good, really reliable, evidence-based information about food allergy management, including peanut allergies. But I will tell you, by the way, most of the questions I get in this Ask the Expert are not about peanuts. So they have questions about all kinds of allergies. It's not just peanut allergies. And then on social media, of course, we continue to try to dispel myths. We know that people are getting information from everywhere, but food allergy information is pervasive on the internet, and social media is one of those places. So we use our Instagram page, we use Facebook, we use Twitter, we use the internet in any way that we can to get the right information out in front of people. And we also partner with other influencers. So you can see the two on the right, or the one in the middle and the one on the right, this is working with Dale Hayes and a Facebook page and Instagram page called School Meals That Rock, and a website as well. The one in the middle is actually a blog post that she wrote. And we're sharing that information through people who aren't necessarily employees or contractors with the National Peanut Board, but are individual voices who also feel really strongly about getting the right information out in front of people. And that's what this is here. And we did a giveaway on the right there where we invited schools to talk about why they love peanuts peanut butter in their schools and how they're using it. And we got hundreds of comments, it felt like. I'm not sure the total number at the end of the day, but we had so many people comment about this. And social media, by the way, is incredibly powerful, and I think Amy's going to talk about that as well and how we got connected through social media. So we're not only talking about peanut allergy management, because we want people to remember that it's not just about peanut allergies. Remember that slide I had that showed all the reasons that peanuts fit into your school nutrition program? We're also developing delicious recipes for schools. They love Uncrustables, so I don't know if anybody's here from Smucker or from that part of the industry, but students love Uncrustables. They're a fantastic product, and schools love them, and we encourage them to use them. When it comes to allergies, they're great because they're individually wrapped, right? It's a contained product. It answers a lot of those kinds of questions. But not everybody can get Uncrustables, right? And just Uncrustables isn't going to keep it on the menu multiple times a week the way we want them to continue to use and increase their use of peanut butter. So they need creative ways to use the peanut butter they can get if they can't get Uncrustables, or in addition to using Uncrustables on the menu. And we want people to remember why peanut butter and peanuts are so delicious. So we're developing more recipes. We have several on our website now. You can see these here. We're developing 8 new recipes that are trend forward, that are plant forward, that really highlight peanuts and peanut butter in a new way, so we can have those positive conversations too that say, hey, in addition, okay, so now you're good with the allergy issue, let's talk about how you can add peanut butter to your menu in a really delicious way. And specifically for school nutrition, because they need recipes in a certain way, they need information delivered in a certain way that they can use in their kitchens. So this is where you come in, because we can all support this effort, right? We can all support this effort. And I would say that, the first thing you can do is be a champion in your district, right? Or find a champion in your district. If you don't have kids in schools, that's okay. You've got friends who've got kids in school, or you've got nephews or nieces or family members who've got kids in school. So be a champion, find a champion. Figure out what's happening in your local school district and have those conversations. You can share the facts about peanut foods. I've shared a lot of information. My slides will be available for you guys. You can use this information. You can go to Peanuts in Schools, and you can spread the word about peanutsinschools.org. Really send people to that resource and use it in your area. And then the last thing I want to say is we need more innovation with peanuts in school nutrition, right? So in the past, when I've gone to the School Nutrition Association meeting, at the expo, there have been multiple vendors who are selling products that have peanuts in them. This year, that wasn't the case. This year, I only found 3 vendors who had peanuts on their roster for things that they were making available. We need to make more options available for school nutrition, because if they want to keep peanuts on the menu, they need to have options to keep peanuts on the menu. They'll have our recipes, right? And there are other recipes that are available too through USDA and through a website called healthyschoolrecipes.org. But that's not necessarily going to be enough. We need more innovation. And I'm happy to tell you that I had a manufacturer come up during the show and say, hey, we want to add a peanut butter product to our menu. Can you help us find somebody to help co-pack that product? I said, absolutely. I have no idea. But I said yes, because I want to help this person find what they need, and we will. We will follow up with them, and we'll do the best we can to connect them with the right person. But we need more innovation. So if you're in this side of the industry, or you have contacts in this side of the industry, this is an area and opportunity. School nutrition professionals are only going to buy what they can get, right? They're only going to buy what's available. And they need very specific products that meet specific nutritional criteria, and industry needs to step in and help meet that need. So encourage innovation, and if we can help in that area, we will help in any way that we can.